All right, everybody, welcome to the webinar. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I am your host, Ryan Faloona, and I am here with BigBeat. And today we are going to discuss how to use Pro. BigBeat is also going to clear up some misnomers, if you will, about the Santa Claus rally, and we will discuss that a little bit before we show you how to use Pro. So BigBeat, why don't you take it away here? Why don't you dispel some of these rumors for our users?
Hey Ryan, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Got my Santa mug today. I'm pretty excited about the day. A lot of things going on today. The market's been kind of crazy, but volume should start to slow up next week into the holiday week, and that's what's important. Now, what's interesting is I have been hearing quite a bit out there. What is all these cliches that have been running around, and one of the cliches that have been running around is the Santa Rally. The Santa Rally started, the Santa Rally has started, and I'm going to try to dispel a few myths here. I'm going to tell you quite frankly that the Santa Rally has not started. That does not mean that we haven't had a rally. It does not mean that the market hasn't been going up. It just means that the cliche actually means it's the last week of December, right after Christmas, and it goes all the way to usually the 2nd or 3rd of January. Now, the dates this year are going to be December 23rd to January the 3rd. And what it is it's the first trading day after Christmas, whatever that is, and it goes all the way to January the 3rd. 2 days, 2 trading days in the month of January. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of history behind that. The first bit of that was the first time that the Santa Rally was actually recorded was in 1972. Now, I know that that's 47 years ago because I was born in 73. Actually, I was born December 28th. So there you go, a little bit of a Christmas baby there. But it was in the stock almanac, right? It was in that stock traders almanac that I use almost on a daily basis. But the guy's name is Yale Hirsch. He was the one who started that, and people looked to that as the first date of the Santa Rally. Okay, so according to the almanac, the market itself has, for the most part, about 77% of the time, risen on the average about 1.3%. Now, Ryan, do you know what 1.3% of 28,000, or yeah, 28.4 right now, almost 28.5?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm sure I can calculate that.
Right, it's close to, yeah, go ahead, let's pull that number up. But what we're trying to say is that the markets here could possibly go up. Now, the next question everybody's been asking me, is the Santa Rally, is it going to happen? And the answer this year is no, it's not going to happen. That's my prediction, that the Santa Rally is not going to happen. And I'm going to give you some reasons behind that. Number one is we're going to see probably the difference this year was that Christmas Day and Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day fall right in the middle of the week. Now, that makes it very tough for traders that are trading, because that lowers the volume, as well as those days the markets are closed, or there'll be a half day on New Year's Eve and also Christmas Eve. So you've got really pretty much 4 trading days out of those 10 days that are not even able to trade. So that's kind of a lower volatility. Now, with a lower volume, that could have a push that some buyers just jump in there with no sellers in there, and they'll just keep bidding up. But the truth of the matter is, no, we're not going to have a Santa Rally. The other reason is because we've been running up for the last month. We've had, 14 consecutive days in the NASDAQ. It's kind of been one heck of a run, as a lot of people have been talking about. Also, this could be a time when short sellers could get crushed. But once again, those short sellers are not going to be in the market. They are already hanging out in the Hamptons. How do I know that? I've made some phone calls, I always do every year, to the hotels up in the Hamptons to see just exactly how busy it is. And if it's busy up in the Hamptons, then I know dang well that the short sellers are away. The Jim Chanoses, and we all know the short sellers, right? They're all on vacation. So that's a good thing for the markets during that time period. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is the next cliche that's coming up, and that's called the January effect. And a lot of traders on the floor, and when the last time I was on the floor, I had this long chat actually about the January effect this year. And I will tell you that the January effect is as January goes, so goes the year. We all know the old cliche, sell in May and go away. So the January effect sets the limits for the year. What is the prognostication for the year? So if the market's up in January, will the markets be up for the rest of the year? Now, that's been a pretty good indicator for quite a few last years. But do I believe these cliches? The answer is absolutely not. I just believe in what the market's doing. And right now, the Fed is still pushing more money into the market. So, as we all say, the other cliche, don't fight the Fed. So, right now, it seems that the market's going to go up just a little higher, but no, we're not going to have a Santa rally.
And I was just going to say, so I did the calculation. So you had said 1.85% of the Dow. Mm-hmm. That comes to 527 Dow points. Yep. So that is a healthy range there.
And if you would divide that by the 6, right? So you would obviously have the numbers of the average each day up and 30 to 40 points roughly. And I just don't see that being the case. I see a very tight range. Probably won't see a sell-off. I know I've been calling for a market pullback. Won't see a sell-off. But we also won't see a big push up either, right?
So, now, Steve, do you think that there's anything that you can infer from last year where we kind of had a really bloody December where it just kind of sold off right into the end of the year, and then in January we bounced a little? Does that have any effect? Do you believe that's going to have any effect on what happens this year, and can we take anything from that?
Last year was a little bit different. I believe there was a little more tax selling. I was on a flight to Vegas. I had lots of puts on the market, and I was laughing on that flight when I got off the flight. The truth of the matter was I didn't even know it was happening while I was on the flight. I was watching CNBC on the flight into Vegas, and I had already put my puts on there. This year, I can't tell you, obviously, I can't tell you how I'm positioning, but I can tell you that I don't see the same thing happening. Now, if the tax selling is being held off a bit, then you'll start to see that happening in January. So if we do that, then yes. Then the January effect may or may not be indicative of the rest of the year. Because we've had so many problems. The market's been up so much, right? And so we kind of need to see a pullback. A lot of people think that we have a healthy market. We don't have a healthy market. The truth of the matter is a healthy market needs a pullback in order to see more cash flow into the market. And right now, we're not seeing that. So that bothers me a lot. We got to see a little bit of a pullback so that people are taking profits and they're not just being what we call passive investors, where they just stick their money in and hope the money goes up, and they got the 401k set, and that's what we're going to do for it.
I mean, pullbacks in a bull market are definitely normal, and you're absolutely right. They are an indicator of a healthy market, and we have really not had much of a pullback to that's a really good point. So that actually is a really good segue into the next question that I had here. So we know your call now about the Santa rally, whether or not it's going to take place. Do you have any other tips or strategies for trading around the holidays? Is there anything else worth trying out or even just watching around this time period?
Drink lots of eggnog. Make sure that there's vodka in it. Look, that's the best part about the holidays is that it's a time to take a break. And it's one of my rules, right? Look, the market doesn't start at 9:30. That's correct. And we have to get up early every morning. And we do that, right? We get up early to make sure we're on top of the market and all that. But there are times when we need our rest. We need to take a break. If not, you're going to go crazy. We'll be the guy hanging off the top of a roof somewhere shooting somebody. So we don't want to be that, right? We want to make sure that we are comfortable and ready to go in the new trading year. So right now, because of the way that the laying between Tuesday and Wednesday, both this week or next week and the week after that, they're going to be chilled out. They're all on vacation. They're all hanging out. So that's okay, and that's a good thing. We want them to hang out.
And now when things are like this, when volume is low, when people are out of the market, when we have some of these oddities on where Christmas falls, do you advise, maybe advise is the wrong word, what do you think about being in the market? I know you had said when you were going to Vegas, you had puts put on while you were on the flight, which is brilliant. But if things are strange like this, is this a no touch, or is this a get involved with small, or what are you thinking here?
This is an extraordinarily awesome time to evaluate your portfolio, selling your dogs, making sure that you're happy going into the next year. Are you positioned in a way that you feel that the sector that you have been making money in or lost money in, is it going to be in the next year? I always say have a thesis. My thesis for next year, as most people know now, is infrastructure. We're going into election year, and so the economy is going to be talked about a little more, and we're going to be talking about the infrastructure. Now, what's interesting is there's going to be a serious political fight between the Democrats and Republicans. I don't want to talk politics, but we're going to see a lot of discussion about the cracks in the economy. All we hear is a one-sided how great the economy is. And I've even talked about this in an opinion piece I made on Benzinga yesterday, that that the cracks are already being shown in the economy, and due to that fact, obviously, I think we're going to see it a little more closer, and so we might see the pullback coming back probably nearer, closer to when we start to have the elections, and not the general, but the pre-election. So this could be a good time to check out your portfolio, make sure you're happy with it. If you're not, come see us. We'll show you how to do a screener and scan for new stocks, right?
That's absolutely right. And in fact, if you want to just jump right into that, I would be happy to demonstrate that here for you. So let me go ahead and share my pro screen and get this all set up here, and we can go ahead and demonstrate some of these things for you. By the way, I gotta say, I love the Christmas mug. That is a winner right there. That is. I hope I find one of those in my Christmas stocking this year.
I've got quite a few of them. I'm a big Santa fan.
And I like the little scene behind you, right in front of the monitor there. It looks like Santa's getting ready to fly right in. That's beautiful stuff.
I even have a penguin there, so as well.
Okay, so moving right along here, you had mentioned the screener, so I think maybe we should just start with that. And I got a tab here. Let me go ahead and close this watch list, which this isn't really necessary at the moment. So I got a tab here with the screener, and the screener is a really easy tool to use. Obviously, there's filters on top, and then there's customizable columns on the bottom. Now, one of the things that I personally like to use the screener for is I like to find things that are moving in the morning if I have a specific thing that I'm looking for. A lot of the times I'll either look for something that's very liquid, so something with a higher float, or I'll look for something with a low float that might have a whole bunch of movement. Is there anything in particular that you were thinking on searching here, Steve?
Well, we talked about the holidays here, and so let's narrow them down to maybe some holiday stocks, Brian. I think earlier you were talking to me, you wanted to talk about the cyclicals and the consumers, right?
Yep, so we can actually do that. The first filter I'm going to throw on here is consumer cyclical. Do we want to put any others sectors on here?
You know, I think we talked about it too, but to make those consumer products, we got to have basic materials, right? We got to have plastic and things of that nature, metal. So let's also put basic materials on there as well, and that way we'll get a better viewpoint of are they buying and selling the actual goods before they're being made, right? So
perfect.
Let's do that first. Yep.
And as Steve was mentioning, we've gone ahead and we've added those two sectors. One of the columns that I actually had here on the screener already available was sector. So if I wanted to then, we're obviously filtering for only stocks in these sectors, but if I wanted to sort by that sector, I could do that, as well as sorting by market cap and price. Now, Steve, what other filters and or columns were you looking for here?
So, you know, Ryan, when we buy and sell those kind of consumer goods, the first thing I will always want to look at is profit margin. Are those companies making more money than they were, say last quarter? Are they continually doing those things? And so I always want to look for profit margin. And in looking for growth, I always want to look at the PEG ratio, right? Which is a new one for a lot of people. PEG ratio is price to earnings, PE, which most people know about, but the G stands for growth. So it's the growth over the next few quarters. So I always like the PEG ratio, and to give you a little bit of a background, PEG ratio, there we want to look for stocks that are under 2. Over 3 is usually not growing. Under 1 is got high growth. So for me, I want to see something in the middle, right around under 2.
All right.
Yep, and then I want to see a high profit margin. So to narrow these stocks down, Ryan, let's just get anything that has a positive profit margin.
You got it. You got it. So just to recap real quick, what I did there was I added those two columns that Stephen was talking about, both the PEG ratio and the profit margin. You can then reorder them any way that you want and sort by them. But in addition to that, I went ahead and I entered in the filter that Stephen had mentioned. So he said that he wanted to find stocks that have a PEG ratio of under 2 and then also wanted to have a positive profit margin. So here is the profit margin filter. I'm going to go ahead and select positive, which is one of our presets. Now, if you wanted something a little bit more specific than that, you could. We have other presets here that you can use, or you could enter in a custom value. But we're going to go with what Steve said. We're going to go with any positive profit margin. So those two filters have been applied now.
Now, Ryan, we've just taken 6,680 stocks and narrowed it down to how many down there?
97.
97 stocks. So what you're taking a whole sector, a thesis, you boil it down to a sector, and you're looking for stocks for your portfolio. So now we've gone from a huge list to an even smaller list. All right, and we all like profit, so let's sort this by profit, Ryan.
So there you go. So Alibaba is going to be your top stock there with a humongous profit margin and a PEG ratio of 1.12. That is definitely below your 2 threshold and just slightly above 1 there. So it looks like Booking.com right beneath that, as well as Newmont Gold and Yum Brands to round out the top 4 there.
Yum Brands, that's very interesting. That's Pizza Hut, and fried chicken, that's KFC, right? And then YUMC is Yum China too. So what's interesting there is that we're not only seeing profit in consumer goods, but we're also seeing it in the restaurant business, which we hadn't seen in the past. Whenever you see profit margins being pushed up in the restaurant business, that means people are going out to eat a lot more often, and it means that people are feeling a lot better about the economy. Now, this morning you'll notice that the Michigan Consumer Sentiment number came out as 99.3. Holy moly. That's really good. That means consumers are buying. And if you remember in the last webinar, Ryan, what did I say about holiday sales?
That you suspected that they were going to be good.
Yes. And in the last quarter, I said, don't be buying any of those. The second quarter, wait. When the prices fall, and they did, and now with the new thesis was going into this quarter all the way to January. So if you really are looking for a Santa rally, you're looking for the January effect, here you go. Consumer sentiment is high. People are buying product. Now you just got to narrow down the stock that you want. Now, Ryan, now that we've limited it down to 97 stocks, if you wanted to, and we put it in that order, you know what you could do with that list?
Yeah, you can actually export this if you want and turn it into a watch list. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. I'm going to use excuse me, I clicked on the wrong thing. I'm going to use the feature at the top. It's a little arrow pointing down, and if you mouse over it, it will say export data to a CSV file. And basically what that does is when you click on that, it will actually generate a CSV file. This can be opened by any spreadsheet editor, whether it be OpenOffice, LibreOffice, or the traditional Excel. And basically you can just go ahead and open up that file. I'm going to go ahead and copy all of these tickers. The file is off the screen here, but it's exactly what you see on the screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of the tickers, select them all, and press Control-C. And then, as Steve alluded to, I'm going to go ahead and add a new watch list to this workspace. And we're going to go ahead and call this, Holiday Consumer Cyclical.
Like it.
All right, we're going to create this watch list. You're going to have a blank watch list in here. And the next step is to put your cursor in the search bar, paste all of those tickers in at once. You'll see that they're all highlighted in blue, and then press your enter key. And as always, the big takeaway here is that when you're loading in multiple tickers, especially 97 of them just south of 100, you want to make sure that you give it a few seconds. All right, so you want to make sure that after you press enter that second time, wait for the actual watch list to load. As you can see here, all of these stocks have been loaded into the watch list, and now this is very easy for me to follow these stocks that we found in just several clicks using the screener. The other thing that you can do once you have this watch list created is you can actually filter your news feed and other tools by this watch list. So if you wanted to see if there's tremendous option flow or if there's going to be any type of gap or price spike in these stocks, you can actually use this watch list to filter your signals tool to find things that way. So, and you can do the same thing with the news feed. So you can really keep track of what these stocks are doing over however long that you actually want to watch this basket.
That's right. So let's talk about the next level of this, Ryan. Now that you've got that list of holiday consumer cyclicals, we can also sort it too as well, right?
Absolutely. We can sort the watch list just like we sorted the screener. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I know that Steve likes to do this too, I'm going to sort the watch list by percent change because I want to know what's either up or down the most depending on what it is that I'm looking for. So you can sort by any of the items, or excuse me, any of the different columns. In this case, we just chose percent change.
And Ryan, let's go back to the screener and let's show them how to pull up volume. That's what's very important, right? We're trying to find a buyers in this market right now. Ryan, we talked about last webinar, 10, 30, 60, 90, right?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So what I have right here is I have just today's volume, but what Steve is referring to are some of the average volumes that we pulled up in the past webinar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I'm using the search bar here to make it easier to find these columns. I started typing in the word average, and it obviously returned all of the different results that have average in them. And this makes it very easy for me to simply click on those date ranges that Steve had just alluded to. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put these in here. I'm actually going to go ahead and remove the sector now because we actually don't necessarily need that column for this example anymore. I did want to show you how you can sort by that column, but now we're going to go, as Steve said, to the next level. So we're going to be sorting by other columns, and in this case, the sector column is no longer needed. It just takes up space on our screen. So I'm going to take sector off, and I'm going to keep on the profit margin and the PEG ratio that Stephen talked about. And now we just went ahead and added in all those different average volumes here. So once I've done that, I'm also going to move the regular volume column, the daily volume column, next to those so I can easily compare those numbers. Now, taking a look at this, Steve, what can you deduce from these numbers?
So Ryan, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for volume that is pushing up over time. So if we look back and we see something 90 days, lower volume is getting bigger on the 60-day, 30-day, and 10, I'm looking for, if a stock's pushing up in price, I'm also looking to see if there's more volume coming into it. Is there more people buying the stock? And that's a very big winner going into next year because they're not only going to buy the stock, but they're going to hold the stock. So that's what's important when you're going to a holiday portfolio or trying to keep it over the period.
So that's a really good tip. And let's just take that one step forward here. Let's look at our top result, BABA, that we just discussed here. Using Steve's method, if we look back 90 days, it had an average volume of 14.79 million. Over 60 days, that crept up. So even though the window got a little bit smaller, the volume actually crept up a little bit, in this case by 1 million shares on average. And then if we go down another 30 days to cut off another 30 days to do the average volume over 30 days, it has gone up yet again, this time by what looks like 1.12 million. And then finally, when we go to the 10-day, yes, it did drop off. So you can see the 30-day average was 16.8 and the 10 is now 13.9. But remember, that's a small drop off. We are looking at a period that is 1/3 the size of the previous period, and we're only off by a marginal amount here. So exactly what Steve is talking about is playing out here in BABA, and you can actually do this in any of the other stocks that you're looking at here on the screener. So I'm just trying to peruse the list here. If it was easier for you, you actually can reorder these columns so that 90 days is actually on the other side, and then you can look from left to right. I, of course, did it backwards here. That's my own fault, though. So I'm just trying to scan through here as quickly as I can.
And you know, one of the things about with having a screener like this, we can also click on the symbol, and we can prove our theory by clicking on the symbol. You can see a details page, and you can see the chart.
All right, so let's do that. So here we're going to use BABA in the previous example that we just discussed. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to close the watch list for right now just to give us a little bit more screen room here. We can always load it back up. Remember, once you create that watch list, it is saved and you can pull it up at any time. So simply closing it from the workspace isn't going to cause that to be deleted. So as Steve mentioned, here we go. Here is BABA pulled up in the details tool. Steve, is there any particular information that you wanted to look at here?
Yeah, obviously we looked at the 90 days, 60 days. So let's look at 90 days back, which is the 3-month chart, really quickly up there.
Go over to the chart tool.
Yeah.
And then
do the 1-day chart. Yeah. And if you pull back and you scroll out, you'll see 30 days back, you'll see straight up. And that's exactly how you catch those volume moves way out.
Look at that. That is perfect. So here I scrolled back a little too much there, but let me go back over that. Look at this. This is actually straight up. That's really incredible, Steve. What a great example. What a great example.
Thank you.
All right. So what's next here?
All right, I think we should show them the platform. We showed them how to find a holiday portfolio, but let's show them the platform, Ron. Let's walk them through it a little bit, show them all the neat little things that we have within Benzinga. It's an amazing platform, and I'm proud to be a part of the Benzinga family. Let's show them why we like it, Ryan.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to go ahead here and just close these two tools down, and we're going to start from a blank workspace. And I'm going to go with a couple of the things that I really, really like and use every day, and then I'll have Steve bring in his opinion as well. So obviously the first thing that I pay attention to is a newsfeed. Newsfeed is definitely going to be the heart of the platform, and it's where I derive a lot of my information from. When you actually load up a newsfeed, what's so cool about our newsfeed is that it gives you an extreme level of customization, and it tries to be a one-stop shop for all things news. So now that I've loaded up a newsfeed here, we call this our default newsfeed. And if I click on the sources button, you'll see that we have Benzinga Signals and Benzinga Wire selected by default. Those are the two main sources. Wire is going to have news stories, and Signals is going to have different transactions that took place in the market, like unusual options, block trades, price spikes, etc. So I'm going to leave those two on, and I'm actually going to stick with just those two sources for the time being. The other really cool thing that we can do is actually filter this out by category. So the key that I want to stress here is that when you start applying category filters, you actually are removing news from your newsfeed. And that may not be, that it may be a little bit difficult to understand that at first, but think about it. What you're saying is, I only want to see things in these particular categories. So if this were me, I would definitely want to see things about tech stocks, small caps, short sellers, rumors, options, news, and then of course some of the market moving exclusives and the market updates. But now that I've applied several of these filters here, you'll notice that the news feed actually has less news in it because it's removing the things that I don't want in there. So when you use category filters, make sure that you're doing it specifically the way that you're looking for it. One of the other tips that I like to tell users, especially when they're new, maybe load up two news feeds right next to each other. So now here on the left, I've got the news feed that I just created with the specific category filters that I have, and the news feed on the right, I have just the default sources. And this will allow me to make sure that I'm seeing all of the news as it came in. Now, as Stephen had alluded to earlier, the other thing that you can do is you can actually filter this newsfeed by the watch list that we just spent that time creating. So I'm going to go ahead and remove some of these filters. All right, so now I've got no category filters on, but what we're going to do is we're going to click watch lists, and we're going to filter this newsfeed by the holiday consumer cyclical watch list that we just created. Now the result is I'm only getting news for the stocks that are on that watch list. So it just makes my job of watching these even easier. Now, the other thing that you can filter here is by sector. So if you wanted to, you could actually click on the consumer cyclical. The sectors in the newsfeed are the same that are in the screener. So if you wanted to go that route, you could. But because we created a more specific watch list, I felt like that is exactly what we wanted to filter this by. And of course, I would not be doing this justice enough if I didn't show you perhaps Steve's favorite trick. Steve, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But you can actually color these sources, and these settings would be global. So an easy way to kind of at a glance figure out what it is that you're looking at would be to color code the sources whatever you want. So in this case, I'm going to color signals blue, and then I'm going to go down to wire, and I'm going to color that more of like a purplish. All right, purplish reddish there. And now the result is that when I'm looking at the screen at a glance, if I'm looking at my broker or I'm looking around at different screens, at a glance I can tell exactly what it is that I'm looking at. And you'll also notice that I've got like a light blue in there, and that's because of one of my category filters that I had colored for tech. So these two things will work in conjunction with one another to try and give you the ability to easily and quickly spot the news that is important to you. Now, Steve, did I leave anything out there?
I mean, the reason that we do that, Ryan, is there are two contrasting colors. Now you can do it with any other two contrasting colors, but the idea for in this situation is that if it's a blue, I automatically know if I'm trading, that I'm looking for a trade idea, that it's a trade that's already gone through, whether that be a block trade or an option. So I'm already finding other traders, what are they actually doing? If it's in purple, then it's obviously a news piece, and so I may want to see what's going on around the news as well. There's also two other things that we also color, Ryan. What are those?
That is the SEC and the press release, and that's actually why I left them off here. Let me go ahead and demonstrate that. I'm going to uncheck the two sources that we just put on, and then I'm going to turn on press releases and SEC. And a wise man once told me that the easiest way to keep track of this is to color press releases brown, because they're press releases like paper, brown like paper, and then the SEC green because of money. That has proven to be very easy for me to remember. Once I heard it the first time, I thought it was brilliant and perfect, and since then I have not forgotten it. So the same thing applies here. Now, we didn't change any of the other filters, so I still have the watch list filter applied. And what that means is now we're seeing press releases and SEC filings right from the Edgar database about the stocks on that watch list. So here we go. You can actually see, looks like we had some Form 4s in here. So I know Form 4s are one of your favorite things to look at in the SEC feed. Isn't that right, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way. Also, way I like to use the system is also being able to filter it by keywords. And Ryan, if you know how I filter mine for Form 4 and what Form 4s are for insider buys and sells. So show them how to do that.
Absolutely, I do. So as Steve mentioned, we are going to apply now another filter. This is not one from a menu like sources, categories, and watch lists. This can be a custom filter that is keyword based. So obviously you can filter the news feed by a ticker if you wanted to only see news about a particular stock like Apple or Goldman Sachs or whatever it is. You can do that. But what Steve is referring to is the keyword. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and type in Form 4, no space between the form and the 4, just Form 4. And you can ensure that you're doing a keyword by looking at what the search bar is populating for you. So right here, it's telling me this is a keyword, Form 4. And if I click on that, now I'm seeing all of the different Form 4s and the corresponding tickers. So if Steve had mentioned he loves insider trades. If I was also looking for insider trades, this is a very, very easy way to whittle down all of that information and quickly find what it is that you're looking for.
And we can also whittle it down even more. We can do option sweeps and block trades and all kinds of fun things. And we have that for us as well. All right, Ryan, well, we know how to whittle it down a little bit. Let's move into the next section. You built one earlier, which was a watch list for the holiday, right?
That's right.
So, Ryan, well, let's show them the watch list. And let's show them where to get BigBeat's watch list.
All right, great idea. So what we demonstrated for you earlier was using the screener tool to put in your own custom criteria and find stocks that way. However, we have another treat for you. BigBeat has gone to the trouble of releasing all of his different watch lists that he has so that you don't actually have to build them. And what we're going to show you right here, I'm going to demonstrate how to import those. So it's actually very similar to the screener. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to create a new watch list. I'm going to call this demo import, all right, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to demonstrate importing, and it's going to be a blank watch list. Now, here's the kicker. As I had mentioned, Stephen has created all of these, and we put these on the help site for you. So if I click on the help button, this will load up the help menu, and then I'm going to click the visit help site button. This is going to load up a help site in a new tab. Right at the homepage, BigBeat's watch list have their own category right at the bottom. So if you click on this, this will load up all of the different watch lists, and these are in an order that makes sense. That it's alphabetical, but it's also kind of what people are looking for. We have world markets and ETFs at the top here, and then in the different sectors are all in alphabetical order. So Steve, did you have a particular watch list that you were looking for? Can I just pick any one?
You can pick anything you want. Dave.
Okay, so if you were doing this here, you can actually scroll right through it, but I also wanted to show you another little trick here. So if I'm scrolling down the list here, let's take a look at the gaming watch list, okay? So gaming watch list is about halfway down here. all I actually have to do is do find and then start typing in gaming, and it will take me right there. So if there is a particular watch list that you're looking for, you can quickly find it by using the find function or even using the search bar at the top of the help section. So now that we found the watch list that we want, we're going to go ahead and click on it. There's an image here of the actual watch list, and if I click on that, it's going to do the same thing that the export did from the screener tool. It's going to download that watch list into a CSV file in the bottom corner of your browser. You can simply open that up, do the same thing, copy those tickers right out of the watch list, and then when you go back to Pro, this new watch list that we just created is ready to accept them. So we're going to put the cursor right in the search bar at the top, hit Control V for paste, and then press enter and import all of these. So right now we chose the gaming sector. Here we go with a couple of clicks and a couple of keystrokes. Now we've loaded in BigBeat's watch list for the different gaming stocks. So he's gone to all this work to do this for you. Definitely use them. These are fantastic. I use them myself. Stephen, I can't thank you enough for doing these. I often miss stocks when I'm putting my watch list together. I put the ones that I'm partial to or the ones that I think about all the time, and then I miss some of the other ones. You've taken all of that and made it so much easier for our users. Really, really appreciate that.
And a lot of times, Brian, people ask me, well, what's the market doing? I don't know what that means because there's so many markets. And so one of the things that I had also created is world markets, so that that ETF, you can figure out within seconds what's hot and what's not in the market. So markets, which means it might be the gold market, it may be Egypt. I don't know what markets means. So to me, I'm looking at the whole world. And Ryan, I believe you already have that one. Is that correct?
Let's see. Yes, I do. World markets right in here. So if I click on that, and I still have my watch list sorted by percent change. So I've got the green ones at the top. This is exactly what Stephen was just talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and expand the name column here so we can actually read these different markets. And sure enough, it looks like just going it. Hey, Steve, look at that. Your friend Egypt right there near the top. How about that?
And I also see that it's hot, the coffee market too, right?
That makes complete sense. Coffee should always be hot, in my opinion, and it absolutely is here right now. So, and that is the one all the way at the top. I love the ticker for coffee, by the way, Joe. That's just a cup of Joe. That's great. I like little things like that. So the other thing is that I know that you had just mentioned in the last example, you were talking about basic materials, and now that I'm looking at this watch list here, I'm noticing that silver is high up on this watch list as well. Natural gas as well. So and soybeans and corn. So it's just, I know soybeans and corn are not necessarily a basic material, but here is exactly what we're talking about. You can, all of these different markets that you just alluded to, we can actually see them here at a glance.
Yeah.
All right.
And
now,
so once you find a stock, Ryan, all you got to do is click on it, right? And it pulls up a details page. Tell us about the details page.
That's right. So just like in any other part of the platform, if you click on a stock, it will actually load it up in details. And in details, you have several really cool functions to help you out here. Details is what I use when I'm actually researching something that I need more information about. What I can do is actually click on that, and then I can go ahead and I can see that the news feed right here on the overview tab is filtered to only show you news pertaining to that ticker. So I clicked on the iShares, the IWM here, the small cap ETF, and it's giving me only news that applies to the IWM. The other thing that you can do is you can actually filter those different sources by using the sub tabs here under the chart. And this will help show you if there are SEC filings or press releases or any of the other sources that we offer. Now, right under the price, you'll notice that you do have this little overview chart here, but you can actually go to the full-blown chart that is powered by TradingView. All right, so we can get kind of a more in-depth view at the actual company itself. And then you can also check out peers and key data. Now, in this particular example, I, of course, selected an ETF, so we don't have peers for that. Let me go ahead and change this to a particular stock just to demonstrate that. So if I go ahead and put in Apple here, this will show you other peers related to Apple. So you might not even have to do that research yourself. We've kind of done it here for you. And there's also a tab here for financials so that you can review the financials of this particular company, the balance sheet, the income statement, and then the cash flow statement. And then finally, we also have the key data tab. Now, Steve, I know the key data tab is one of your favorites. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. You must know whether or not a company's making money or not, right?
And sure enough, just as Steve was saying, look in the key data tab under the valuation section, some of those terms or some of those filters that Steve was looking for in his first scan appear right here. So you can see that there's PEG ratio right there. You can tell what its assets are right away. You can tell about its cash flow and its operating margin and its revenue. So a bunch of information here to use for details. And as Steve also hinted at, if I found a stock here that wasn't on my watch list, there's an option to add it to your watch list right up here in the corner. If you click on that, it will give you a drop-down menu of all of the watch lists you created. The check mark denotes that you've already added it to that watch list. You can see I have Apple in a couple of different watch lists here, but now you can just select whichever watch list you want, and it will go ahead and add that stock to that watch list. So we've tried to make it very, very easy for you to keep an eye on what is important to you in the market. Now, Steve, I think that covers it for the details tool for right now. I would like to segue into the next section, and that is Squawk. Now, Squawk is one of my favorite features, and there are a couple of things that I want to cover here before I turn it over to the Squawk master himself, BigBeat. So first of all, the Squawk is right on your left-hand menu bar of your Pro platform. And normally it'll look like this. You'll have a little white dot, and when you mouse over the icon, the status will say stopped. Well, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and start that. So if I click on play, it'll say connected, waiting for audio. And that tells me that now we're waiting for the squawker to actually read something. The button right next to it is your mute and unmute button. In this case, it says unmute, and that means that my squawk is muted. And I can tell because the volume slider is grayed out and I can't move it. I had it muted because I didn't want that to be blaring over the course of this webinar, but for the sake of the example, I'm going to go ahead and unmute it now. Now you can tell that the volume slider is adjustable, so I can actually change the volume of the audio that's coming in. And this is a really helpful feature because if you're in the other room preparing your Christmas dinner or whatever, handling your guests or whatever, or even if you're in the room and you're looking at a different tab or you're looking at your broker, the audio will read, or the squawk will read, and it'll produce an audio transmission that you can simply hear. So you can very quickly act on things and find things out that are going in the market. So for the rest of this, I'm going to turn this over to Steve because he is one of our squawkers and he actually reads some of this content. So Steve, take it away.
Yeah, Ryan, I mean, very simply, we have the world famous Charlie Gross, who has been our squawk guy for many, many years. He has very big knowledge of the markets, understands what's important to the traders. He is on key. We have several different organizations and news that are filtered coming into us in real time, and that's important, right? Sometimes we as traders can't always get it right. What does that mean? What does that PR mean? What does that mean? And one of the things about being a trader as well as Squawk is that we give it to you in real time as fast as it comes out, as well as the ability to understand it and how to make a trade from that, right? Apple says this or Microsoft says this. So we put it in a very concise, easy to understand format where you can hear it. And so, so we start early in the morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we go all the way to 6 p.m. At night. So we have 12 hours of coverage. That's more in the market than you need. But we're still there. We're doing earnings. We're doing news breaking, Trump tweets, you name it. We are really on top of it.
Anything that is potentially going to move the market is going to get picked up by you guys. You guys are incredibly good at figuring that out. Steve, do you read any type of option flow or block trades by chance?
Oh, obviously, but I think the best way to do that, Ryan, is to pull it right from one of our best modules.
Absolutely, you caught the segue perfectly. That is that perfect catch right there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to load up our signals tool so I can demonstrate some of these signals. So I'm going to go ahead and click on signals. It's going to go ahead and open this tool up in the workspace, and by default, I just have the price spike selected. You'll notice at the top here, you have several different options for signals, and as Stephen mentioned, these are transactions that have already taken place. So this is not necessarily a news story. This is something that has actually happened. And if I go ahead and turn on a couple of these, the four that I use the most are going to be price spike, option activity, block trade, and halt resume. There is no wrong answer here. here. A lot of people like to trade off highs and lows, in particular 52-week highs and lows. What I will say here is that the session high and the session low, these are very chatty. There are a ton of stocks that make session highs and session lows on a regular basis. And as a result, you're going to have a lot of information come through this channel. The session high and the session low signals are best used when you have another type of filter on. So as we mentioned in the last section here, you can filter these different tools by your watch lists. And if you do that, then it will be very easy for you to keep track of, well, the stocks on my watch list are making a session high or a session low. The day high low series, this is more of a filtered signal. So it actually needs to make 3 very quick highs or lows, depending on what you have selected, in order to trigger that signal. And what that does is it makes it a little less chatty. 52-week high and low is fairly self-explanatory. And the opening gap here, these are signals that are producing opening gaps in the morning. So, Steve, these are my 4 favorite. What are your 4 favorite?
You know, Ryan, I think one of the cool things about this signals is being able to filter it down by ETFs. Now, in the signals here, we can do it by ETFs, whereas you can't do that in the news feed. But one of the cool things is I'm a SPY trader. I want to know what's going on in the overall market on the S&P 500. So, Ryan, can you show them how to filter that down by that ETF?
Absolutely. So we're going to go into the filters menu, just as Steve alluded to, and then we're going to go ahead and select the securities filter. Okay. And in here, this is where you can actually type in different securities that you want to filter this by. Now, Steve, did you have specific filters that you wanted me to put on here?
No, Ryan, I think that's what I kind of excited about lately, because the volume has been low, so I don't really always necessarily know which direction the market's going to go in. So if you'll notice, all of the SPYs are now coming in.
Yep, here we go. So right here, you can see right at the top here, we actually just had an option activity for the S&P 500 ETF, the SPY ETF, and this is just telling you that this was actually a put sweep here, 501 contracts. Now, I do get a lot of questions about the option activity signal, whether it be for ETFs or for equities. I get questions about how do you read this alert? How do you discern what the different parts of this alert means? And we have a chart that I would be more than happy to share with anybody. It's posted online. If you can't find it, go ahead and reach out to me. I would be more than happy to give it to you. Steve, would you mind doing a breakdown of the option activity post here, just real quick for our users?
Well, Ryan, one of the cool things about it is we have timestamps on all of our news coming in. So the first thing you'll notice is the actual timestamp at 11:47. Looks like 19 now, but we're going to see them in real time, right?
That's right.
See the SPY, so I already know it's the S&P 500 ETF. And then we're looking at the option alert. And so the option alert in this situation is the Jan 17. Now, that's the expiration date or expiry date of this actual option, so January the 17th. We'll know that 315 bucks, that's the actual strike price, which I'm hoping to get to. And right here, you'll see it's a sweep. Now, that number in parentheses means that's the number of ways that they broke up this order in order to fill it. It was a big order, and so in order to do that, it had to go to 3 different people or 3 different exchanges or 3 different ways to actually get this order filled. We'll also see that it was below the bid, so we're looking at, what is that, can't really read it, call. So it's a call at the bid, so that's a bearish, and they're selling calls on this one. And in that situation, there was 500 of them, Ryan. So what that means is that was 500 orders. And we know that the price on that one was $1.617. So that's right. Each option is worth 100 shares. And of course, my rule always is options aren't scary. So we're always happy to help you understand that. But what's interesting with this one here is that what was the OI, and that is the open interest, that there is a lot of open interest there. And open interest is all of the bids and asks around that price. And so we want to know all of the different orders that are around it. So it's a large order going into a large ETF. The next line over there says reference or REF, and that's the price of the stock or the equity, in this case ETF, of when this option was lifted or bought.
All right. Now, I don't expect everyone to remember all of that on their first go around. As mentioned, if you need help, please reach out to me. I would be more than happy to give you the exact chart that BigBeat just alluded to and explain that for. So Signals tool, definitely one of our favorite tools. Thanks for explaining the option activity. Is there anything that we can cover regarding block trades real quick for the users? I do get a whole bunch of questions about block trades.
A block trade is very simple. It's a very large order going into a stock. Usually it's unusual. It's like 1 million shares. And here in block trades, we also give you the price at which that block trade was actually lifted at. And looks like the last one here, Zion Bank, right? Z-I-O-N.
Yep.
636,000 shares at 51.65 at the ask on the high. So looks like if we click on Zion Bank share, most people want to know which direction, Ryan, is this block trade going? Is it a big buy or is it a big sell? And what I always look for is the ticks afterwards, and the bar, the candlestick after this order went through will give me a good example of exactly, is this bullish or is it bearish? Is someone buying or selling? We don't always know if they're buying or selling or shorting the market, but we can always see what's happened in the past. It's a good indication of what's going to happen.
So just to take his BigBeat's example there, that's an excellent point. What I did here, the block trade line itself says that it it transacted at the ask. So if you think about how that actually works, there's a bid and an ask, and the order had to get filled at the ask side. So that means that that particular trader said, go out and get me that stock. Now, as BigBeat mentioned, it also lists the price there of 51.65. If we go ahead and open up the chart tool, remember, I was able to do that simply by clicking on the symbol. It opened up the details tool automatically for me. I switched over to the chart tab, and sure enough, the 2 ticks after that block trade were both up. It obviously ticked up to 66 and now to 67. So, Steve, great point. Great example. Worked perfectly right there. So, last one here to cover real quick is the halt and resume. This is fairly simple. If a stock is halted, you will get alerted to it, and you will get the reason as well, and then you will also get an alert when that stock has resumed. So I'm not big on playing stocks that are going in or out of halts, but if that's something that you're looking for, you can absolutely do that. I would be concerned if I was holding a stock for either a swing or a long-term investment and that stock was halted. I would want to know that, and I would want to know, why is that stock halted? Is this something that I have to worry about? Is this something that I have to do more research about? What's going on here? So the halt resume signal also fairly helpful signal throughout the course of the trading day. Now, I think that does it for signals here, Stephen. Is there anything that I forgot, or can I move on to movers?
I think you move on to movers. Yep.
All right, let's do it. Let me take a look here. If I click on, let me go ahead and close this. If I click on movers, this is one of my favorite tools. And one of the reasons that this is one of my favorite tools is because it's incredibly easy to use and incredibly quick. So right here, as soon as I opened it up, you'll notice that it defaulted to gainers and losers. This basically means stocks that are going up or stocks that are going down. When we have gainers and losers, obviously it's both. And I'm going to leave it on that for right now. And then it defaulted to the session that I was in here. So we're in the regular session. So it selected the regular session. And then it gave me a period. And this is what really sets this tool apart. The period will allow you to scan for different periods. So if I want to know what's up on the session, all I have to do is click on session. I can see here that these stocks are up by the percentage that's listed here. However, if I want to know what's moving recently, and I click on period of the past 15 minutes, now all of this data changes. And what I'm looking at here is what's going on over these 15 minutes. So the second one here on the list is a great example. You will notice that the symbol itself is in green, which denotes that this stock is actually up on the day. However, over the past 15 minutes, remember that's the period that I selected, the percent change is it's down 15%. So just by looking at this, just by a couple of very quick clicks, you can tell that MNPR, I believe this was an IPO from yesterday, MNPR is actually up on the day, but over the past 15 minutes, it's down. Now, if I want to click on 30 minutes, I can do the same thing. Well, look, it's still up on the day, but it's down over the past 30 minutes. What if I click on hour? Up, it's down over the past hour. So this is obviously trading down, and just like in all the other tools, I can simply click on it. And here's one of the other cool features here. I'm glad that we selected this. When you click on it, when you open up stocks in the details tool, sometimes we've done a lot of the work for you. If you want to know, hey, why is this stock moving? Well, here it is. We have this blue banner right under the price called Why Is It Moving? And it says Monopar Therapeutic shares are trading higher on post-IPO volatility after the stock opened at 8:35 Thursday and rallied roughly 400% since then. So this is the IPO from yesterday. It IPO'd at 8:35. It's currently printing 30.35. Obviously, there's been a lot of action in this stock, and it's at the top of the list here in Movers. So Movers is a very, very easy to use tool to help you figure out what's moving. The one other thing that I want to mention about it real quick before we move on here is the session. This tool will allow you to scan the sessions differently. So when you wake up in the morning before the market's open, you can actually scan what's moving in the pre-market. And then once the regular session starts, you can then scan what's going on in the regular session. We're approaching earnings season here. So if you want to know what's moving after hours when some of those earnings reports are released, you can do the exact same thing. You can simply click on after hours, and this will allow you to scan these different sessions in the market. We, of course, have the sector filter that we have in some of the other tools. And then we also have a easy-to-use market cap and price slider. And if you don't want to use the slider function, you can actually click on custom and put your own values in there. So this tool is very flexible, very easy to use, and designed to help you find things that are moving very, very quickly. As always, it's tied to the details tool. So if you click on any of these, you'll be able to do further research in the details tool. So Stephen, did I leave anything out there? I know it was a little long-winded.
No, I think it's good. I think one of the good points you made was the why is it moving? That's really good, Ron. If you go back to a news desk and a news feed, and you can add that category into your news feed as its own news feed as a category, why is it moving? And you don't have to ask us what's moving in the market, what's shaking. You will already know because the whims will already be there in order for you.
So as Steve was talking, I really quickly went through that. Basically what I did here is I loaded up a default newsfeed that has our Benzinga signals and our Benzinga wire source. They're still color-coded like they were from before, all right? And then in the category filter, I simply selected why is it moving? And as Steve said, what that does is it gives you the results of all of the different stocks that we have produced a why is it moving reason for. And here's the great part about it. So it's telling you exactly what the why is it. It's telling you what the why is it moving content is right here in the post. So I don't actually have to do anything further. I can simply read these. AbbVie shares are trading higher, not seeing any news to justify the price action. Okay, maybe that's just it's the market's on low volume and it's just moving up. There's not necessarily a news. We contrast that to something down here like Kellogg shares are trading higher after Bank of America, upgraded the company's stock from neutral to buy. So here is an example of we knew exactly what the reason was, and we're telling you what it was. And again, if you want to do some more research, all you have to do is click on that ticker. It will load it up in the details tool, and now you can actually do more research on that stock. So great call, Stephen. The why is it moving is one of my favorite things about Pro. It has really made my job easier, and it's definitely a value add.
And you know, Ryan, once we find a stock, what do traders like to do when they find stocks? They like to talk about it.
They like to talk about it. So what I'm going to show you here is the chat. Now, if you click on chat, the chat will open up. It'll be docked to the left-hand side of your platform. And in here, it's not just BigBeat and I. These are all of our pro users, both paying pro users and trial pro users. And in here, we are talking about stocks. We're talking about different signals that are causing things to move. We're talking about reasons. We're talking about ideas. We're sharing with everyone in the community all of the different things that we know and see. And obviously there's so many stocks out there. We only have two eyes. We only have limited, brain power. So there's no way that one of us is going to be able to catch everything. And that's why the community is such a great tool, because things that I'm not looking at, BigBeat might be looking at, or one of our other pro chat members, and they love to share those amongst the group. So BigBeat, I know that you are an active moderator in the chat. Anything that you would like our users to know about the chat?
Just let them know, Ryan, that I am also there to help them, guide them, show them where things are. I'm also there to show them when I see things in the market as well. I will post them in there, but I always make sure that I put a cash tag next to the symbol. So it's a $sign next to the symbol, so that within chat, it's clickable.
That's a really great point here. So just to demonstrate what Steve is talking about, you can see here that these tickers are being cash tagged by our other pro users, and this does a couple of things. Number one, as Steve mentioned, I can click on it and it will load it up into a details tool so that you don't actually even have to type. You just simply point and click. The other thing is that if you mouse over it, it'll give you a little spark chart so you can get an idea of what's going on so far with this particular stock. And also, as Stephen mentioned, we definitely like to help users. So if you have a question, if you need some help with something, definitely reach out. Use this as one of your resources. You'll notice that we do have 2 different rooms. We're looking to expanding that in the future, but right now we have a different room for politics. We, for the most part, like to keep politics out of the general room. Obviously, when the president tweets something that's market moving, it's a different story, and of course, we're going to do our due diligence on that. But for the most part, we're trying to create a very communal chat room here where everyone is helping one another, not just BigBeat. So,
and Ryan, you just clicked on LB. We just talked about holiday, right? So L Brands. I mean, that's going to be Bath and Body Works, Victoria's Secret. People are going out there and spending. So look at that. Look at that chart, up 2.5% today.
Great call. Great little add-on to our example. And as you noticed here, I actually clicked on LB from one of our other pro members. This wasn't even one of the admins, so it's not even BigBeat. His call of the retail market being hot right now, it's actually, you're able to see that in the chat as well. So definitely a really helpful feature, definitely something to benefit from. One of my favorite features. I don't like necessarily trading alone. I love being able to talk to other people, and the pro chat comes with Benzinga Pro. So definitely use that feature. Now, Steve, is there anything else that we should cover here before we send people off for the weekend?